Well, let's begin with the overview. Ogre27 Kane here today, and Ancestor's Legacy has been on my watch for a minute or two. It's an RTS that started out originally on the PC, but has come over to consoles. The game takes place between 700 and 1100 AD or so, and it has 4 different factions: the Vikings, the Anglo-Saxons, the Germans, and the Slavs. Each one has their own unique thing to bring, and we're going to start off with the gameplay. Well, the gameplay in this is a real-time strategy, and it's a very aggressive one. It took me a little while to adapt to it because I'm used to most real-time strategies being where you conquer areas, grow and build, and concentrate force before you go in and do military action. In this game, it really pushes you to just go from one action to the next. There's not a lot of time spent on building and managing your town other than what you need to upgrade your technologies and your soldiers so they can attack. Having 10 units at a time kind of limits you on what you can do, but it also makes the game move a lot faster and keeps things flowing. Now, that being said, the skirmish mode allows you to really move a lot of things around and change some of these things, so you can make unique battlefields and make it more to your playstyle. I will say though that the game has some difficult controls on the console, and so it really takes some getting used to. I'm not going to tout how great this game is whatsoever. It just stuck with me because I really like the style and I'm a huge history buff. The last thing I want to mention about the gameplay is that this game does have a really good tutorial and it does explain itself pretty well. You just have to really adapt to the controls. So let's move on now. Let's touch the story. Well, there are 4 different and unique stories. There are the Vikings, the Anglo-Saxons, the Germans, and the Slavs. And each one takes place in a fairly important part of their history. And it allows you to take part in unique battles and gives you unique units to each area of that history. The cool part is each story is pretty fun and unique in its own, and it allows you to see what occurred in that time period in a fun and different way. One of the cool things about history to me is how it has a lot of different ways to learn the same subject while giving you different angles and perspectives. This was an area in history that may be considered sort of the Dark Ages because there wasn't a lot of history to go off of, so it's cool to kind of get a first-hand account, if you will, of it. So if you're a big history buff like me, you should really enjoy these stories. And if you're not, maybe you could learn something from it. It's pretty fun. It might interest you or intrigue you into getting more involved with the subject or learning about these certain tribes or what they did at this point in time. I love the fact that games like this can be educational while still being extremely fun. And yeah, that's a huge glitch that you're watching on the screen right there. I had to get that in there. Well, let's talk about the controls and audio now. And the controls, in my opinion, are the weakest part of the game. I don't really think they did a great job adapting it from the PC, and some of the controls aren't terribly responsive. A lot of your units, when they're engaged as well, don't really follow orders, and it's really difficult to get them to break off or do other things. The retreat function works well enough and does what it's supposed to, and I suppose it gets you by. But when you're really trying to do a complex formation and execute a move, it's really frustrating when you can't get the units to respond properly. I know that this has rules of engagement in its own sense, but it's kind of annoying, and it limits your ability to really set up proper strategies. So let's talk about the audio now. Well, there's not a lot I really want to say, but I am going to show off a good piece of it, And I think the audio is a shining point in this game. It's one of the better parts, and I think they really executed well on the voice acting as well as the music that's integrated with it. So, let's check it out.
And set off for wayside farms, aware that our empty bellies were the worst of advisors. Strengthened, we were able to push the Britons off the bridge, drowning the escapees in deep waters. In joy, we rejoined with our brothers, and now we were up to any challenge. And with the last line of defense gone, the path to Lindisfarne laid before us. We eagerly rushed the monastery, expecting easy victory. Yet we were wrong. As the notoriety of our actions spread over the countryside, the abbey filled with zealous defenders, a hard fight was brewing behind those walls. And to be frank, we couldn't wait to test our strength.
Graphics and animations now. Well, once again, these are kind of both rough categories. I understand what they were trying to do, and they had a lot of work to move all this over and try to get that little switch to power all of these different things moving around on the screen at one time. But the resolution gets pretty low, and the animation and frame rate gets low as well. Now, the overall frame rate in the game as you're playing doesn't ever get too slow or sluggish. That's not too bad a problem unless you get all 20 units on the game interacting at the same time, and then you'll see some slowdown. What I'm talking about is the actual in-game resolution. When you're scrolled out, it doesn't look so bad, but when you zoom in to actually look at it, it gets pretty muddy, and that's kind of disappointing. Now, I'm not saying they could necessarily do a lot to fix this. I understand that this is a smaller budget game, and even getting it on the Switch was a big deal in its own, but it could benefit from a patch or an upgrade. Now, this is a 2018 game, so I seriously doubt we'll see that anytime soon, but be aware it's not a shining highlight of the game whatsoever. Now, I know those things sound negative, but trust me, the game is playable and it's still enjoyable, and don't let those things bother you. So let's talk about the combat now. Well, the combat in this is really enjoyable in my opinion. Yes, it has the issues I mentioned and it has some smaller problems, but if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth, then you'll be familiar with this style of combat. It's very aggressive, and it's based on how quickly you can move around and take the battlefield. There's not a lot you can do in terms of building a town or city or growing anything that's going to allow you to overpopulate your enemy. The computer always has a heads up and can build units twice as fast as you with no resources. So your goal in this is to be quick and to be maneuverable, to figure out areas to do things like assassinate, or to pop out of the bushes and ambush, or to circumnavigate and flank your enemy. You need to use the entire battlefield to your benefit. The other thing I should mention about combat is that because you can upgrade your technology, you can upgrade your units themselves and they gain new technology. This new technology can lead to increased movement or speed or offensive or defensive capabilities, as well as giving them different abilities. So, like if you have things like the Berserker, you can do a frenzy move, or if you have archers, you can gain accuracy. So it gives you quite a few different things to adapt your characters to as you level them up and grow them. So I really enjoyed these aspects. In conclusion, I really think this game was worth my time and my money. I picked it up for about $15 and it was well worth that. I know this game goes for anywhere between $15 and $30 on eBay, and you can probably get it free on Game Pass. It's kind of old now. So for that price, it is definitely recommendable. No, I couldn't recommend a full price for this, but being very cheap that it is, it's totally worth your money and your time. If you're not into RTS games, this one may not be the one for you to start with. This video is a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And have a great rest of your day. This is Ogre27 King signing out.
Lindisfarne fell. with heavy bags encumbering us from the gold and trinkets. I boarded the ship, leaving for another adventure. Later, I heard my countrymen claim such terror has never plagued the homeland. I've seen my share of suffering too. I lived through it and survived. And I tell you, this is just a start, as the age of the Vikings has just begun.